So the history of space stations is actually it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of a space station first came to be in about 1869. It was like 1869, 1870 in that time. It was all science fiction, of course, at this point. But it wasn't even called a space station. It was called the Brick Moon.
The Brick Moon.
The Brick Moon. That's right. It was by an author named Edward Everett Hale. And the Brick Moon that he wrote about, that he described, it was 200 feet in diameter, and it was a brick sphere essentially. And when he came up with this concept, he didn't have it. It wasn't originally planned to have people in it. It was just a sphere that kind of acted like a navigational aid for ships that wanted to go to the moon or to Mars or anything else. So it was just a navigational aid.
Wow.
But in the story of when he wrote it, the space, not the space station, because that's not what he called it, the Brick Moon got launched when people were still working on it, when people were inside it.
Oh.
And it got launched, and those people got trapped in it and got launched with it into orbit. And so the whole story is how they're able to survive on this brick sphere that's orbiting the Earth. And that is essentially the first time that like the concept of a space station ever emerged.
Isn't it so interesting, like with Jules Verne's book and Going to the Moon, that we have stuff like this back in the 1800s, and we're thinking about it already? And
it is very
it finally
interesting.
Starts like 50 to 100 years later. That's crazy.
Yes. So the actual term space station, it didn't come about until about 1920s.
Okay.
It was by a Romanian rocket pioneer, Herman Oberth.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure you've heard of him. He envisioned a platform that was orbiting the Earth, that it was to be a starting point for missions that went beyond it. So kind of similar to like how Edward Everett Hale had his, but Herman Oberth actually had his envision of people living on it operating it while it's out there.
And he's Warner von Braun's mentor.
Yes.
He
was.
Yes, he was.
Interesting.
Yeah. I met his great-grandson.
Warner von Braun's great-grandson?
Yeah.
That's cool.
No. Not Warner von Braun's great-grandson. Herman Oberth's great-grandson.
Oh, that's cool, too.
Yeah. Anyway.
Interesting. Okay.
That was weird.
Man, I wish I could say something like that. I don't know. Maybe I probably have met some really big, important guy, and I just never realized it at the time.
He didn't tell me until like later. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. I saw Oberth, and I was like, all right, his last name's Oberth. I was like, huh.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if that's related. But yeah, so after Oberth came up with that concept, there was an American engineer a couple years later by the name of Robert Goddard. Have you heard of him? Yeah.
America.
Yep. He was the first guy to start experimenting with liquid propelled rockets over here in America. But while he was experimenting with that, there was an amateur rocket group over in Germany that was also experimenting with liquid fuel rockets. And there was one specific guy that was handpicked out of that amateur rocket group to work for the German army. Do you know who that is?
That's Warner von Braun.
Yes, it is. That is Warner von Braun. Yes. So he was just in an amateur rocket group. Like that's all they were.
I didn't know that's how.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess he was making a lot of good progress with liquid propelled rockets. So he was handpicked and kind of like forced to join the German army. Right. And this is right about when World War II was going on.
Yeah.
So yes, he was building rockets for World War II. For Germany during World War II. And he ended up constructing the V2 rocket.
Right. We kind of went down this rabbit hole. In
the
previous episode, but yeah, keep going.
But there's a reason why I'm talking about it.
Yeah. You have
So he developed the V2 rocket's first rocket to pass the Kármán line 100 kilometers above the Earth. All that, you've already done this in previous episodes. But the reason why I bring this up is because Herman Oberth, when he came up with the space station idea, he wanted. Or he knew that it needed to take very powerful rockets to get it up into orbit. And he knew that the rockets that we had now weren't powerful enough. So when Warner von Braun he was developing liquid propelled, one of his things that he was thinking of in the back of his mind is, I can develop these rockets to help get a space station in orbit.
Oh my gosh! All the way back in World War II with the V2 rockets.
Yes.
I know there's different versions of the V2 rocket he had on paper.
Mm-hmm.
That some were even like second stage and stuff. And he got in trouble. I think even locked up in jail for a little bit because they thought the Germans wanted him just to construct missiles and blow stuff up. When he started putting people in it, they were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
like in his designs.
Yeah.
So
after World War II, von Braun, and I'm sure you mentioned this in your earlier episodes, he came over to America with his blueprints. He built the V2 rocket here just to show us that he can build such a great rocket. And then he became friends with Walt Disney, and he got a Disney TV show called Tomorrowland. Did you talk about this in
I
the
have
early
not
episodes?
talked about that yet.
So for those of you who have heard of Tomorrowland, Wernher von Braun had a couple episodes where he talked about space stations on Tomorrowland. And this was kind of the first time that he was really pushing that information for the public to know.
Yeah.
And his concepts were crazy, but they made sense. They were really cool. He's the one that came up with the concept of the space station would be kind of like a donut, like a toroid shape, and that it would spin to create artificial gravity so that people would have gravity and their bones wouldn't liquefy.
And they're looking at that design now for a potential one. There's a few companies that are like, we're going to try to build that, and they've designed on like computers and stuff, different ones, and they think they might actually start building one of these.
The concept is correct.
Yeah.
All the logic behind it is correct. It's just actually making it.
Yeah.
Actually building it to where it is safe for humans to be in, and getting it into orbit and keeping the orbital motion consistent. That's what's really difficult, and that's why we haven't done it yet. Yeah. So that's kind of where space stations, they got started.
Yeah.
It was just a science fiction thing that an author back in the 1800s created, and then all these people who were building rockets are like, you know what, we actually are starting to get the technology, this actually might be possible, and they're like, let's just try it.